Welcome to the Evolution Studio Works podcast series. This conversation collectively details the comprehensive regulations for operating a home-based food business in Florida, emphasizing the Florida Cottage Food Law. They outline licensing and permit requirements and specify strict rules for food safety, sanitation, and labeling, requiring ingredient lists, allergen information, and business details on products. Let's listen into the conversation.
Today, we're diving deep for anyone who's maybe, dreamt of turning their home kitchen into a real business, specifically right here in Florida.
Yeah, we're looking at the practical side of things, starting up, staying legal, the whole home-based food scene in the Sunshine State.
And to get us there, we've sifted through quite a bit.
We have. We've got a pretty comprehensive Florida home food business guidebook, a detailed Florida home-based food business briefing, and also some critical legal stuff from what are the regulations for starting a home.txt.
Okay, so our mission today, cut through all that jargon, all the complexity of state and local rules, give you the facts you absolutely need, and really help you understand what's essential if you want this venture to be legal and, successful.
Hopefully some aha moments along the way.
Yeah.
Exactly. Actionable insights. So let's start with the basics. Florida actually allows these home-based food businesses, which isn't the case everywhere.
Right.
It's often under something called the Cottage Food Law. So for someone just thinking about this, what exactly is this law? What does it let you do?
Well, the main point of the Florida Cottage Food Law is really to give people a legal way to make and sell certain types of food right from their home kitchen.
Okay.
But only specific types, we call them non-potentially hazardous foods. And it's about selling directly to people, consumers.
Right.
It basically creates a path for these smaller home-based operations without needing that full expensive commercial kitchen license. That's a big barrier removed for many.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, for someone starting out, that lowers the hurdle significantly.
Yeah.
But are there limits? How small scale does it have to stay? I guess you can't just build an empire under this specific law.
That's a really important point, actually. And yeah, you're right. There's a very specific detail here, a revenue cap.
You're limited to $50,000 per year in gross sales, and that's for sales within Florida.
$50,000. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not just a guideline. If you go over that $50K limit, you can't legally operate under the cottage food law anymore.
Wow.
You'd have to transition to a fully licensed commercial operation, which is, a whole different ballgame, much more complex, much more expensive.
So you need a plan for success, almost.
Yeah.
If your cookies get too popular, you hit a new regulatory wall.
Exactly. You need to know that limit going in. It defines the scope.
Okay, so thinking about starting up.
Yeah.
You can't just, bake some amazing brownies and put a sign out front, right?
No, definitely not.
What kind of paperwork, what sort of hoops do you need to jump through before you even preheat the oven?
Right. Well, looking at the big picture, getting the right permits and licenses is absolutely crucial. If you skip this part,
Trouble.
big trouble.
Yeah.
Fines, or they could just shut you down completely. So beyond that main cottage food operation permit, the CFO permit from FDACS, that's the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services.
Okay, FDACS. Got it.
You'll probably need a few other things. There's likely a general food permit, also from FDCS, just for selling food legally.
Right.
Then, depending on your city or county, you'll need a business license or maybe a home occupation permit. That just covers running a business from home.
Okay, local stuff too.
Exactly. And anyone actually handling the food needs a food handler's permit. You get that after taking a certified food safety course.
Makes sense.
And one more potentially tricky one, zoning approval. You absolutely have to check if your home's zoning allows for any kind of commercial activity. That varies a lot place to place.
Wow, that's quite a list. And these aren't just helpful suggestions, they're required.
Absolutely mandatory.
And skipping them means fines, potentially pretty hefty ones, right? Hundreds or even thousands of dollars.
That's what the sources indicate, yes. Could be quite substantial.
Okay, so knowing the permit side is serious, let's get into the kitchen itself. When you're actually making the food for sale, what are the rules for the space? Do you need a totally separate kitchen just for the business?
Yeah, that's a really common question, and generally the answer is yes. The guidance points towards needing a separate, dedicated kitchen space for your home-based food business.
Really? Separate from your regular family kitchen?
Typically, yes. Yeah. Distinct from your personal one. The idea is all about meeting specific health and safety standards for commercial food prep.
Okay.
And crucially, minimizing any risk of cross-contamination between your home cooking and the business products.
Right, cross-contamination. That makes sense. So what about general cleanliness? Sanitation standards?
Oh, absolutely. Your home kitchen, when you're using it for the business, has to meet specific FDACS requirements. It's pretty rigorous.
Like what?
Well, think proper hand washing, a dedicated sink with hot and cold running water, soap, paper towels. All your utensils, your equipment needs to be clean and sanitized, properly stored food at the right temperatures if needed temporarily. Pest control measures have to be in place.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's personal hygiene for whoever is doing the cooking, clean clothes, hair restraints, you know the drill.
Right.
Plus, regular cleaning and sanitizing of the whole prep area, proper trash disposal. And remember, that mandatory food safety training for the food handler's permit, that covers all this stuff: handling, storage, sanitation.
So it's not just wiping down the counters. It's a much more disciplined approach.
Exactly. Think mini commercial standards, but in your home space.
Got it. So with all these rules in place, what can you actually make and sell? Can I sell my famous chili or my cheesecake?
Probably not the chili or the cheesecake. The Cottage Food Law is very specific here. It only allows certain non-potentially hazardous food products, meaning foods that are generally shelf-stable and don't need refrigeration to stay safe.
Okay, like what kinds of things?
Think baked goods, cookies, breads, cakes without certain frostings. Also, candies, honey, jams, jellies. There are even specific rules just for homemade jams and jellies.
Interesting. So what's definitely off limits then?
Right. The prohibited list is key. You cannot sell what they call potentially hazardous foods.
Okay.
These are things that need refrigeration or are more likely to support bacterial growth if not handled perfectly. So generally, no meat products, no dairy products like fluid milk or most cheeses, and no canned goods unless they meet very specific acidity requirements.
So no selling homemade chicken pot pies or things like that?
Definitely not under the Cottage Food Law. It's all about minimizing the risk to consumers when food is made outside a regulated commercial kitchen. Safety first.
Makes total sense. Okay, so you've jumped through the permit hoops, your kitchen setup is compliant, and you made some delicious allowed cookies or jam. Now what? How and where can you actually sell this stuff?
Good question. Sales are generally restricted to direct sales to consumers.
Direct sales, meaning face-to-face.
Often, yes. But the good news is online sales are permitted under the Florida law.
Oh, okay.
But you have to follow all the labeling rules, even online, and deal with online sales tax requirements naturally.
Right. What about farmers markets?
Yes, farmers markets and similar events are definitely allowed. You'll need your cottage food license from FDACS, obviously. And you have to maintain all those kitchen safety standards and have proper product labeling right there at the stall.
Okay. Can you sell through like a local coffee shop or a grocery store?
That's where it gets tricky. Selling through retail stores or big online platforms like, say, Amazon or Etsy, that often has different, usually much stricter requirements. Or it might just be restricted entirely for cottage food operations. You need to check carefully. It likely pushes you out of the CFO category.
So mostly direct interaction, whether in person or online.
That seems to be the focus. No, about advertising.
Yeah, how do you get the word out? Social media? Flyers?
You can definitely advertise, but all your advertising and promotion have to comply with Florida's rules, meaning everything has to be accurate. No false or misleading claims about your products. It's about truth in advertising.
Standard stuff.
Pretty standard, yeah. And specifically for social media, your posts also need to align with the FDACS labeling rules. Only show foods you're actually allowed to sell. Demonstrate proper food handling if you show prep. And implicitly, you need to have all your permits in order.
Transparency and honesty, basically.
Exactly.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to the day-to-day running of the business.
Yeah.
Beyond the kitchen, what about help? Can you hire your neighbor's kid to help box up orders if you get busy?
That's a big question about scaling. Under the cottage food operations rules, generally no, you are not permitted to hire employees to help with the actual food production.
Really? Just you?
The law is really designed for an individual working solo from their home. Now, if you were operating under a different, larger food establishment permit, which means a commercial kitchen, health department oversight, all that.
Right, the step up.
Yes. Then you might be allowed employees. But that comes with a whole raft of other requirements. commercial kitchen, more inspections, mandatory food safety training for every single employee. Plus, even then, local zoning might limit how many people can work out of a residence.
So for the typical home baker starting out under the Cottage Food Law, it's a solo act.
Pretty much, yeah. For production, at least.
Okay. What about insurance? Is that required? Recommended? Seems like a good idea when you're selling food.
Oh, absolutely essential. Insurance is your safety net. It's not something to skimp on.
What kind?
Well, general liability insurance is usually considered a must-have. That protects you if someone claims they got sick or injured from your product.
Okay.
Then product liability insurance is highly recommended. It specifically covers risks related to the food itself, like unexpected allergens or contamination.
Right.
You also really need to check your homeowner's insurance policy. Most standard policies do not cover business activities or business equipment and inventory stored at home. You might need a rider or a separate policy.
Good point.
And if you use your car for deliveries or picking up supplies for the business, you'll need commercial auto insurance. Personal auto policies often exclude business use.
Yeah.
And just hypothetically, if you did somehow have employees under a different permit structure, you'd need workers' compensation insurance.
So lots of different potential insurance needs.
Definitely. The key takeaway is talk to an insurance professional who understands food businesses. Don't guess.
Solid advice. Okay, another really critical area,
Right.
Food allergies and special diets. How does a home-based business handle that responsibly, especially working from a maybe smaller home kitchen?
Yeah, this is absolutely crucial for consumer trust, for safety, and legally. First off, you must clearly list all ingredients on your product labels or your menu if you have one. Full transparency.
No shortcuts there.
None. And if you do offer allergen-free options like gluten-free or nut-free, it's vital to maintain separate preparation areas and utensils for those products. Preventing cross-contamination is paramount.
That can be tough in a home kitchen.
It can be very challenging, which is why meticulous planning and execution are needed. Communicating clearly with customers about potential risks, staying really informed about common allergens, maybe even consulting a food safety expert, these are all strongly encouraged.
Okay. What about things like packaging and just storing ingredients and finished products? Seems basic, but probably important.
Absolutely critical, actually. Your packaging needs to use clean, food-grade containers. And ideally, they should be tamper-evident so the customer knows it hasn't been opened.
Right.
Labels, again, need all that required info, including those allergen warnings we just talked about. Storage. Everything needs to be kept in a clean, dry, well-ventilated area, away from pets, away from household chemicals.
Makes sense.
Any perishable ingredients or finished goods, even if allowed temporarily, have to be held at the correct temperature. And record keeping ties into this too.
Records. Like what?
You need detailed records. What ingredients you used, who your suppliers were, production dates, batch numbers for your products.
Why is that so important?
Traceability. If there's ever a problem like an ingredient recall or a customer complaint, you need to be able to track exactly what went into which batch and when. It's essential for handling any potential recalls responsibly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. One last sort of dreaming big question. Can a home-based food business under this cottage food law eventually expand into, say, running a food truck? Is that a possible next step?
Interesting thought. But what the sources make clear is that no, it is not legal to operate a food truck as part of a home-based food business under the cottage food framework in Florida.
Not at all.
Not as part of the same operation. Food trucks fall under a completely different and quite expensive set of regulations. Different permits, different licenses, mobile vending rules, health inspections specific to mobile units, even different zoning considerations for where you can park and operate.
So a food truck is a whole separate venture.
Entirely separate. You can't just add wheels to your cottage food operation.
Okay, good to know. We spent a lot of time talking about what you should do, all the rules to follow.
Yeah.
But what happens if someone doesn't, if they cut corners or just don't get the right permits? Yep. What are the real penalties?
Right, the consequences. And connecting this back, they can be pretty severe. It can really put a stop to your dream business fast.
Like what, specifically?
Well, first, fines. We mentioned this earlier with permits, but failing to get the necessary licenses or permits can lead to fines. The sources suggest anywhere from a few $100s up to several thousand.
Ouch.
Then there's the risk of suspension or revocation of permits. If you're found operating without meeting food safety standards or violating the terms of your permit, they can suspend or even completely revoke your licenses.
Which
means you have to stop operating immediately. Huge financial loss, not to mention the damage to your reputation.
Yeah.
There can also be product removal or enforcement actions. If your labels are wrong or your packaging isn't right, or worse, if a product is deemed unsafe, regulators can force you to remove those products from sale. And again, fines or other enforcement actions can follow.
Okay.
And in really persistent cases or severe violations, it can escalate to legal actions. This could mean injunctions forcing you to stop, or potentially even criminal charges in extreme situations involving public health risks.
Wow. So the stakes are definitely high. It's not just a slap on the wrist.
Not at all. Compliance isn't optional. It's fundamental to being allowed to operate.
Okay. This deep dive into Florida's home-based food business rules really shows how vital it is to do your homework.
Thorough research, absolutely.
And then strictly follow those state and local rules. It's clear it's not just about being a good cook, it's about being compliant.
That's exactly it. By really prioritizing getting those necessary permits, truly understanding and implementing the food safety and the labeling standards, and respecting those limits on sales and revenue, aspiring entrepreneurs can definitely build a legal and hopefully successful venture right from their own kitchen. It is possible.
So as you, our listeners, consider maybe starting your own culinary dream from home, here's something to think about. Given all these regulations we've discussed, focus so much on safety and direct sales, what could be the next big innovation for home-based food entrepreneurs in Florida?
Interesting question.
Something that allows for growth, maybe more reach, but still works within or maybe even finds ways to smartly expand upon these existing frameworks. Something for you to mull over as you plan your next delicious step.